Yackers, welcome to the Gack Yak, a GAC TV podcast where we yak about the gack. I'm Chad Maurice, and today we are yakking the Valentine movie in March because, hey, why not? Harmony from the Heart, starring Jesse Metcalf and Jessica Lowndes or Lowndes, however you pronounce it. There we go. Off the GAC website, a music therapist and a physician initially clash over the care of a patient, but as Valentine's Day approaches, they might find that music and love make excellent remedies. The movie is written by Jessica, and it's directed by Michael Robeson. The movie starts off, we see some Valentine decorations, some flowers, some candles, some chocolate. Yeah, that looks real nice. We see a little girl named Violet. She's hanging out with her grandmother, and she's making Valentines for her classmates. Her Valentine gives her a music box that she had when she was a little girl as a Valentine's gift. And then her grandmother begins to sing to her. Next, we have a flash forward. We see Violet as an adult. She's walking into a college and looking around, and she is 20 years older than all the other students. And that's because she is there getting her master's in music therapy. We see her talking to her professor. We find out that Violet is one of those students who doesn't like to do what they're supposed to do. She's supposed to do a paper for her senior thesis, but instead she's doing volunteer hours over at the clinic. Violet doesn't want to do that paper. Her professor tells her, hey, I can't pass you unless you do that paper. And then she sees the fabulous work that Violet has been doing with the patients over at the clinic, and she says, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'll give you a patient to work with, and you have 2 weeks to get him to speak. And you must do a paper on your progress for your senior thesis. And Violet says, okay, so she agrees. The professor says, you have until the end of the semester, which is February 15th. Hold it, wait a minute, February 15th? I've never heard of a college semester ending in the middle of February. The spring semester always starts in like the middle or end of January and goes until May. Jessica, have you ever been to college? What's this? College semesters don't end in the middle of February? Anyway, let's skip over that. Violet finds out that the patient her professor has assigned to her is her professor's brother. Next, we meet Violet's friend Desiree, played by Christy Burke. Ooh, I like her. She's a florist, and she is selling flowers to some dude, and she's asking him questions to find out if he's single. She gets disappointed when she finds out he's buying flowers for his girlfriend. Dude, if I were you, I'd dump that girlfriend and take up with Desiree, because she is adorable. Violet comes in and gives her a ribbon to tie flowers up with, and tells her she is going out of town for 2 weeks. We find out that Desiree is throwing an under the sea party, whatever that is. Is that like a Little Mermaid party? I don't know. Guess we'll find out later. Desiree says, hey, you can't miss my party. Desiree then says to Violet, maybe you will meet someone and fall in love while you're out of town. Violet says, hey, there's no chance of that. Then we see Violet walking into a hospital carrying a keyboard. She asks to see Charles Carver, the patient her professor assigned to her. Oh, then we see Jesse Metcalf, our second GAC snack of 2022, wearing a white doctor coat and going by the name Blake. And he tells her that Charles was discharged. She tells him that she is there to heal Charles through music therapy, and he's like, what? Music therapy? What are you talking about? She asks the receptionist for Charles' home address, and the receptionist says, sure, and gives his address to a total stranger. Hello? Doesn't this hospital follow HIPAA laws? You can't just give a patient's address to some total stranger who walks in off the street. That's crazy. The receptionist warns her that Charles's wife is a tough nut to crack and tells her to take her a gift. So Violet goes to a chocolate shop to buy Charles's wife a gift. She picks out some candy for Charles's wife, and we meet Max, the owner of the shop, and we find out that Max is Charles' grandson. He says to her, "Oh no, you don't want to buy my grandmother those." He says, "You want to buy her white chocolate." So she does. Now he hands her a box of white chocolate. She hands him a $20 bill, and she gets $11.11 back in change. This means that box of chocolate only cost $8.89. Whoa, that's some cheap chocolate, Max. I mean, a box of white chocolate on Valentine's Day, that's going to cost you at least 30 or 40 bucks. You're not going to get that for $8.89. No way. She also tells him her friend Desiree needs a chocolate fountain for her under the sea party. Still don't know what that is. Violet shows up at the Carver house. She gives the candy she bought to Charles's wife, Marianne, and she is not impressed. Apparently, Violet is going to be living with them for the next 2 weeks. Hold on. Living with them? I've never heard of a therapist living with a patient. That's crazy. I've heard of therapists doing house calls, but I've never heard of a therapist moving in and living with somebody. I don't know about that. She sets up her keyboard in Charles's room and tries to get him to sing a scale, but no dice. Then she tries to get him to clap some rhythms, still nothing. Then she tries to get him to move his fingers like he's playing an instrument, but nothing works. And his wife is not happy, and she stops the session. She takes Violet out into the hallway and tells her she is skeptical about this music therapy stuff. Violet asks her to give her a couple days. Mrs. Carver tells Violet she would like Charles to say, "I love you" on their 50th anniversary, which is Valentine's Day. Violet says, "You have my word," and that he will say it. Woo, that's a big promise, Violet. His wife says, "Okay." So Violet has 2 weeks to get this dude to talk. Mrs. Carver tells Violet her sessions with Charles will start at 9 o'clock every morning and that her grandson is going to supervise. Woo, nothing like having someone breathing down your neck while you're trying to do therapy, right? Violet says, "Oh, your grandson, the chocolate maker?" And Mrs. Carver says, "No, the doctor." And then walks Dr. Blake. Surprise, Violet. Next, Blake is at a bar with his brother, the owner of the chocolate shop, Max. Blake tells Max, "Man, you spend way too much time at that chocolate shop." And he says, "That's why you don't have a date for Valentine's Day." Max says he heard their grandfather is doing music therapy. Blake says the therapist is unrealistic and is going to make the recovery process longer. Max asks Blake to help him out at the chocolate shop over the next couple weeks because he is swamped with orders. Blake says he doesn't understand why people go so crazy over Valentine's Day. And he also tells Max, "I think this is your year to find someone." Next, we see Violet doing her toenails on the phone with Desiree. She tells Desiree, "I don't know what I was thinking. I promised Mrs. Carver a miracle. I promised her I could get her husband to talk by Valentine's Day." Violet also tells Desiree that Dr. Blake is arrogant and difficult and is going to make her job twice as hard. Yeah, that's the same thing that he said about her too. Desiree says, "Well, if he has a cute brother, let me know." First session next day begins with Violet having Grandpa Carver listening to music instead of making music. Dr. Blake is like, "What are you talking about? Listening to music is not going to help." He says a hot cup of tea will help him more. Violet finds Gramps' records of he and his band, and Blake says, "Oh yeah, Gramps was a local celeb back in the day." She begins to play one of the records, and Charles smiles. Then Violet sees Blake climbing onto his motorcycle as he is leaving, and she comments how it isn't very smart for a doctor to ride a motorcycle. And he just blows off that comment. Next, we see it's 10 days until Valentine's Day. And Blake changed Charles' physical therapy appointment to 9 o'clock the next day when Violet was supposed to do music therapy with him. Apparently, he didn't like that motorcycle comment. She asks Gramps if he would like some music while doing his physical therapy, and Blake says, "No can do. This is a doctor and patient only session." Blake shows up at his grandparents' house with flowers and chocolate for his grandmother, Mrs. Carver. Marianne is her name. And Granny loves him. Blake tells Violet, if you want to win her over, she is a huge Emily Bront fan, who I think is an English 19th century novelist, but I'm not sure about that. Violet now is out buying records for Grandpa Charlie, and Blake shows up and says he is there to oversee what she buys. Apparently, he doesn't trust her. He also says that Grandma invited her to dinner, and she says, "Oh, that was nice of her," and so Violet accepts. She then asks Blake if he even likes music. He says, "Of course I like music, but I don't like bands, only solo artists." And he buys Grandpa a Paul Simon record. Wonder which one he bought. One Trick Pony? Graceland? I don't know. Next, we see the family having dinner with Violet there. We find out that Max is the chef in the family. Grandma Marianne tells Violet about her and Charles's first date, which was at a jazz club, and the band that was playing invited Charles on stage to play with them, and it turned out that that was his band. Violet asks what song that they played, and Granny says, "It had to be you." Max then says to Blake, "Hey, that's why you always played that song with your band." His band? That's when we find out that Blake was in a band called the Heartmenders when he was involved with Doctors Without Borders. Violet then makes a toast to the Heartmenders. Violet gets a call from Desiree, and she tells her she needs help fulfilling orders at her flower shop. She tells Desiree, well, she can't be there for 2 hours. Blake tells her there's a game tonight and that she will get there faster on a motorcycle, so she agrees to ride on the back of his bike. Wait a minute. How's she gonna get there faster on a motorcycle? Blake, are you gonna ride between the cars? Apparently, it's the only way you can get there faster, because you have to go the same speed as the cars, right? I don't know. Then we see them at Desiree's flower shop. They're helping her make all these arrangements. Desiree says this reminds her of an episode of her favorite reality show, The Single Man. Blake says that show is ridiculous, and people can't fall in love after knowing each other for 2 weeks. Yeah, I agree with you there, Blake. Blake says he believes in love, but doesn't believe in Valentine's Day, and says that flowers, chocolate, Cupid, it's all ridiculous. Desiree then tells Violet that she and Blake are perfect for each other after hearing that. That's just what you want. Yeah, you want your friend to hook up with some guy who hates Valentine's Day and hates love at first sight and all that mushy stuff, right? Violet says they can't stand each other. Desiree then invites Blake to her single mixer party that she is having the night before Valentine's Day. Aha! That is what the Under the Sea party is. It's a singles party. Now we know. Blake drops Violet off at his grandparents' house, and she starts looking at him with googly eyes. Uh-oh. A week left before Valentine's Day, Violet gets a call from her professor. Her professor asks how she is doing, and Violet lies and tells her she is making progress. But then admits that Charles hasn't spoken yet. Her professor reminds her that she has less than a week, that it's less than a week from her deadline. She's got to get him to speak, got to get that paper turned in. Violet says, have no fear. It's under control. Next day, we see Violet singing to Charles. She tries to get him to imagine his first date with his wife, Marianne, and what he said to her. He tries to speak, but can't. So his wife, Marianne, tries to end the session, but Violet says, let me try one more thing. She then begins to play their song, It Had to Be You. And he hums a few notes at the end. Violet and Marianne are shocked, and they're all happy. She steps outside, and Blake is out there chopping wood, and he tells her her voice is something. She tells him Charles hummed along, and he says, that isn't significant. She calls him a pessimist, and he says that is better than being a blind optimist. She gets a splinter from a log, and he pulls it out and says he is good with his hands. Whew, I bet he is. Next, we see them in a coffee shop. They're sharing a cup of joe. He tells her that she has beautiful eyes. They then run into the trumpeter from his grandfather's former band. He asks how Charles is, and he says he wanted to stop by the house, but he is afraid of Marianne, Charles's wife. He tells Blake he doesn't want to disturb his date, and Blake and Violet look at each other with a strange look and then deny that they're on a date. Blake then admits that Violet has been good for Charles, but still says that he is skeptical about all this music therapy stuff. He then asks her to help out at Max's chocolate shop because Max is swamped with work. Then the usual romantic drama movie moment occurs where he wipes away whipped cream off her lip. Hope he washed his hands first, COVID and everything. They arrive at Max's candy store and begin helping him make chocolate-covered graham crackers. She tells him that she is a terrible cook, and Blake says, you are baking, not cooking. She asks him why he became a doctor. Blake says it was orderly and practical, and that he lost his parents in a car accident when he was a kid and wanted to be a doctor so he could help prevent people from experiencing the heartache that he went through. He asks her why she went into music therapy, and she says she made a promise to her grandmother that she would use her voice to try and heal people. They exchange stories of past relationships. Her ex moved to Denver and didn't ask her to go with him, and his ex cheated on him a week before he was going to propose. Then they exchange some romantic looks. They take a romantic walk surrounded by trees that are decorated with lights. They exchange their favorite sad songs. Hers is Adele's Someone Like You, and his is Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On. He says he has a surprise for her back at his grandparents' house. So they go back to the house. The surprise is roasting marshmallows. She wants to know when she will hear him sing, and he says never. He asks her what her favorite song is, and she begins singing the song she wrote for the movie, which is titled 1111. They make s'mores, and she says she is going to take it to go. What? Take it to go? You can't take a s'mores to go. You have to eat it right then and there, hot off the fire when the marshmallow's all warm and soft. Ugh. She then gets up and leaves in the middle of their romantic night. Man, this chick really knows how to ruin a date. Next day, they give Gramps a sax, and he begins playing. Woo, nice. Later, Blake and Violet are out shopping for Valentine's gifts. Blake says he is not a fan of Valentine's Day. Yeah, we already know that. He says he never had a reason to celebrate it. Oh, what are you talking about, bro? You had a girl that you almost proposed to. Didn't you and her ever celebrate Valentine's Day? Apparently not. She says Valentine's Day was special for her and her grandmother, and that their special number was 1111. It doesn't say what the significance of the number is. Yeah, I don't know. Is it 1,111? Is it 1111 like on a clock? Is it $11.11? I don't know. She doesn't explain. He asks why she has a deadline to get Charles to speak by Valentine's Day, and she explains that if she doesn't get him to talk, she has to retake a class for her degree. He asks why she is buying all these Valentine decorations, and she says to decorate her guest house. He calls her adorable. Then Violet comes up with an idea of decorating Charles and Marianne's living room for their 50th anniversary, even though Marianne doesn't like decorations. So Blake agrees. They go back to the house and finish decorating right when the grandparents walk in. They say, "Hey, what do you think, Grandma?" And she says, "I love it." Grandma then warms up to Violet and gives her a hug. Next, we see Violet, Blake, and Charles and Marianne. They're in a barn, and they're watching an old black and white movie. Violet and Blake leave to go to the concession stand to get some food, and Marianne asks them to get some popcorn. They start talking about that reality dating show that Desiree likes called The Single Man. Blake asks Violet if she would ever go on a show like that, and she says no. She says she is not competitive, which Blake disagrees with. She also says that she would befriend all the women and wouldn't have any enemies. Then they talk about Desiree's single mixer that she is hosting, and Blake asks Violet if she is going. She says, of course, and asks him if he is going. He says, who do you think is carrying in the chocolate fountain? Violet says it would be great if two strangers fell in love at the mixer. He asks her if she believes in love at first sight, and if it was love at first sight with her ex, the guy in Denver. She never answers him, though. At least if she does. Can't remember what she says. They get wings and fries at the concession stand, but don't get any popcorn for Grandma. Uh-oh, she's not going to be happy. They then exchange roses are red, violets are blue poetry. Why? I have no idea. People watching the movie tell them to quiet down. They're talking too loud, and they realize that they forgot Gramps' popcorn. And get this, the popcorn is free. What? That's my kind of theater, man. Free popcorn. I've never heard of free popcorn in a movie theater. Theaters make more money on the popcorn than they do ticket sales. Next, we see Violet hanging out in her guest house, and Desiree stops by for a visit to make some Valentine Day cookies. Desiree asks Violet what is wrong. She says she is confused. And Desiree asks if it is about Dr. McHandsome. Violet says no, but it is apparently. She's confused about her feelings towards Blake. They go to the kitchen to make cookies in the dark, and they try not to wake anyone, but of course, they're dropping dishes and making noise, and in walks Grandma Marianne. Oh, and Grandma Marianne is played by Susan Hogan, who played the mother in the Alicia Witt movie, A Very Merry Mix-Up. And that movie has the same scene as this movie, where the two main characters are making cookies in the dark. They're making all kinds of noise. And in walks Susan Hogan there. She turns on the light and says, hey, you might make less noise with the light on. This is like the same exact scene, which is pretty neat because I like that movie. Marianne stays and helps with the cookies. Desiree tells her about her unluckiness in finding love on the dating apps, and she asks Marianne if she is scaring away her soulmate. Marianne says, you can't scare away your soulmate. Desiree then asks Marianne to help Violet with her love life, and they talk about Blake without naming him. Marianne asks Violet, what is the problem? Desiree says that Violet is scared. Marianne tells Violet to listen to your heart. Next, we see it is one more day until Valentine's Day, and Charles still hasn't spoken, which means Violet only has one more day to get him to speak and to write this paper. One more day. She hasn't even started this paper yet. How's she going to finish that paper in a day and pass this class? That's what I want to know. Violet goes to the hospital to see Blake, and she brings cookies. Blake says, you made these cookies? You a baker now? She asks Blake to go to the singles mixer with her, and Blake is like, huh? She then says, as colleagues, not as a date. She doesn't want him to think it's a date. She says we could drive together and save gas. Yeah, that's just what a guy wants to hear a woman say when she asks him out. It's not a date, but we can go together to save on gas. He agrees, and he says that he'll pick her up. Then we see Desiree at her singles mixer, and she is freaking out because the chocolate fountain hasn't arrived. Blake picks up Violet, and he has Max in the car with him, along with the chocolate fountain. Max and Blake then start jamming to old-time rock and roll. They all arrive at the mixer, and Desiree sees Max. Oh, and she is smitten with love at first sight. And she looks like a schoolgirl in love. Max is also smitten with her. Desiree and Max share a romantic dance, and Max asks how she got into the flower business. She tells him it started by going to farmers markets and donating leftover flowers to hospitals, and that is how she met Violet. Max thinks she is incredible. Yeah, I do too. Blake is trying to dip strawberries in the chocolate fountain, but isn't having any luck. He sees how well Max and Desiree are getting along and says, "Oh, one man down." Violet asks Blake if he believes in soulmates. He says it doesn't sound very logical. But what does he know? He only operates on hearts. He doesn't claim to know their secrets, their wants and desires. Violet is not happy with that answer. Violet goes across the room and tells Desiree she is going to tell Blake how she feels. Desiree thinks that is a great idea and encourages her. Violet, now the conflict time in the movie has arrived. Yeah, Violet goes looking for Blake, and she sees him with his arm around a hot blonde. Uh-oh. Violet grabs her coat and leaves the party all heartbroken. She receives a text message from Blake asking her where she is, and she ignores it. Then she receives a call from her professor, Charles's sister. Violet begins apologizing about not getting Charles to speak yet. Her professor says, "Don't worry about the progress." She says, "Don't worry about it. The progress you have made has been wonderful, and you are going to graduate, and you have a job at the university hospital." What? How? She didn't write that paper she's supposed to write. She's required to write it. How can she graduate? Her professor told her at the beginning of the movie she couldn't pass that course without writing that paper. Man, I smell something fishy, and it ain't the fillet of fish or the undersea dance or whatever that thing is called. Max and Desiree see Violet sitting alone and moping, so Desiree goes over and asks what happened. Violet says Blake doesn't feel the same about her as she does about him. They share a container of ice cream so Violet can eat her feelings. Blake knocks on the door and gives her her music box that she left at his grandparents' house, and he wants to talk. He wants to know why she left the singles party so early. Violet says, "Because I saw you with your arm around that beautiful blonde." And he says, "That was my cousin." It's always the cousin, right? He congratulates her on the job she got without finishing her dissertation paper. Oh boy. He says he is not sure if he believes in this music therapy stuff, but he believes in her. Violet says she's not sure if she believes in herself because she promised his grandmother that Charles would be speaking by Valentine's Day, which is tomorrow. And then she says she is going to keep that promise. Oh, you are? Wow. She asks him if he can get a hold of Charles's old bandmates. Then we see everyone at Charles and Marianne's 50th anniversary party. People ask Violet to sing something. So she gets up, starts playing the piano, and sings her grandmother's song, 1111. And this is the song that Jessica wrote for the film. And it is a good song. I like it. Jessica is a talented singer. In fact, I think, Jessica, you need to pursue a music career because you are awesome. Yeah, that's what I think. Then she invites Blake to come up onto the stage with her, and they sing a duet of "It Had to Be You" with Charles's former trumpeter. Charles goes up on stage and begins playing the sax, and he sings a couple lines, and everyone is shocked and happy. Yay! Way to go, Charles. Blake then tells Violet that he is falling for her. They kiss, and woo, that is the end. All right. So, this movie got me at the end. I mean, how could it not? That song Jessica wrote and sang at the end is a very emotional song. There's a very emotional moment in the movie. And when Grandpa walks up on stage and plays the sax and sings a few notes, whoo, you can't help but get emotional. I mean, if you don't, you're dead. This movie has plot holes, like all these movies do, but all in all, it is very entertaining, and I would recommend it, especially if you like music. I think this is Jessica's best movie, at least out of the ones that I've seen anyway. I haven't seen the two she did with Chad Michael Murray, though, last fall that GAC showed. Angel Falls Christmas and An Autumn Romance. I need to do recaps on those, see how those are. I'm glad this movie introduced me to Christy Burke. I thought she made Desiree a real fun character. And it's always good to see Susan Hogan. So this movie gets a thumbs up from me. Check it out. Tell me what you think. I think you'll enjoy it. And if you do watch it, let me know what you thought of it. I'm at GAC TV Podcast and at Chad Maurice on social media. Thank you for being here, Gackers. And until next time, you keep your head up, keep smiling, and keep yakking and gacking.